later was gonna get, and I've been wearing it for a year and I never got sick.
Sitting on a big old, I told you.
One after.
Test.
But he's kind of got their own level of comfort. I know for like a while, my wife was kind of into doing the double masking kind of a thing, and whatever makes you feel safe.
F9, 8 or 7.
Maybe it'll just be the two of us, Mark.
Yeah, well,
Marty plans on being here, I know.
I saw a bus coming, I thought that might be.
Marty, Don doesn't travel anywhere, does he?
Test. I'm on 7.
Not on his own, I think his wife has to drive him.
Test.
You don't need me anymore?
No. Don Seep signing in. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? This is Don Seep. This is Don Seep. Can you hear me? Don Seep signing in. Can you hear me, Barb? This is Don Steep. Can you hear me, Barb or Clint? This is Don Steep speaking. Can you hear me, Barb or Clint? Mr. Chairman or Mr. Administrator, can you hear me?
Don, this is Clint. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Steep,
Yes, speaking. Yes,
can you
speaking.
hear me?
Yes, speaking. Who is this?
This is Mark. I was planning on seeing you in person today.
Well, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, Mark. I'm having a lot of trouble with my back.
Understood. I was
But,
just looking forward to it, that's all.
Well, I'm holding you to it. Nice to hear your voice.
Nice to hear yours too.
Barb, in the upper right-hand corner of my screen, it says layout. What does that mean?
It's really sunny day.
I wore a jacket that was cold for dinner. I knew you would.
Can anybody tell me what the term layout up in the upper right-hand side of my screen says, means?
Supervisor Steep, this is Administrator Langrick. I believe that has to do with the display on how you're seeing the different screens of people and participants in the virtual
Okay,
meeting.
yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we got a minute here and then we can get started. Don't want to hold anybody up on a wonderful day like today. This, I haven't got there yet, but I'm going.
You voted twice.
I voted.
I did too. In person. I don't know.
All right, it's 1 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Do we have proof of notification?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair.
All right, and the agenda, it looks like we got 13, 14-point agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Move for approval. Can I get a second? Second by Linda. Motion by Marty. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we've got an approved agenda. Previous minutes from the last meeting, is there any concerns about them? Has everybody had a chance to look them over? All right, Melissa, motion by Melissa, second,
Okay, I know.
second by Marty.
Thanks.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right,
Aye.
here we go. Number 5, tax deed property sale in the town of Aiken.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to approve the sale of the tax deed parcel 00215342100 in the town of Aiken. Parcel is to be sold in auction by the committee here today. It was appraised, or the minimum bid was set by the property committee in the amount of $1,000. And this is located in section 15 of the town of Aiken off of 5 Points Drive, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do we have anybody that's interested to meet the minimum bid? All right,
Mr. Chair, I think we have to make a motion to sell it first.
okay,
And I
sounds
make
like a
that
great
motion.
idea.
I make that motion.
Thanks, Marty.
I'll second.
Okay, Dave seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Okay, now do we have anybody interested in? Yes, same person.
Jeff Lasicki.
Okay, okay. And there's no one else that's interested? Anybody online or anything? All right.
Mr.
So,
Chair,
yes, Mr. Seep.
I think you have to call for bids 3 times, for closing the bid 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, so we close the bid. Is there any more? And any more people interested in this? So that'd be 3 times? Sounds like we got it through.
Mr. Chair, are the Lassickys bidding the minimum amount, $1,000?
All right. So the last keys have a bid for the $1,000. Do we need to approve anything from this, or are we good with that?
Well, I move that we accept their bid and direct Julie Keller to work out the details with them.
I'll second.
Melissa seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, second, we have another parcel up for sale.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to approve the sale of tax deed parcel number 01434401009. This is in the section, town of Henrietta. It is a section 34, town of Henrietta. It is a 0.07 acres. The appraised minimum bid value was set by the property committee of $750. This property is at the corner of Highway 80 and Mant Street in Hub City, Mr. Chair.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the sale of this parcel?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Dave,
second.
Dave and Melissa, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we can sell this parcel. Is there anyone interested in this parcel? Doesn't appear to be. Do I have to do this 3 times? Anyone bidding on this parcel?
I don't think we're seeing anybody.
Nobody's online or anything? Then we gotta say it one more time. Is anyone interested in this parcel? All right, so now we would probably refer this back to Property and Grounds. Is that who it is? Property Committee?
Yeah.
When you refer it back, Julie,
This is Administrator Langrick. Treasurer Keller, when we refer it back, can it be referred back with a motion if somebody comes forward with a minimum bid between now and the property committee that we can sell it to them? Is that something we've done in the past? Okay. Okay, with the previous motion to sell it for that amount, that works for us? Okay, so then we need, do you need additional action then to refer back to property committee?
Test.
We put it on the property committee's agenda, and if somebody comes in before the property committee meets and wants to still buy it, they still can.
Okay.
Otherwise, we refer it to property, and usually we lower the price at that time.
Okay. So this time, do we really need an action then by the committee to refer it back, or can we just take it back?
We used to always just put it back on the agenda.
Okay. I don't believe we need an action.
We don't need to do anything. I just remember in the past, we've referred stuff back to the Property Committee, so I guess that's no real action to take, but that's where it's going. Okay. All right. Number 7.
Mr. Chair, looking today for motion to approve expenses of up to $130,000 for purchase of squads and or equipment and new sheriff's vehicles. The background on this item, the Richland County Sheriff's Department was approved $130,000 in the 2021 Capital Improvement Fund for the sheriff's new vehicle outlay. I would like a motion to approve the spending of up to $130,000 to purchase the equipment of new sheriff's vehicles. This is a practice that we had done last time, and it worked well for Chief Porter. And again, this would be coming out of the short-term capital borrowing Fund 92. And that is what I have for you today, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
and just to clarify, they would still go out on bids to get the lowest bid for vehicles and equipment. It's not that we were avoiding the bid process.
Yeah, that was the only question that I had is, are we just buying them or are we going through it? I think normally we have 2 or 3 bids if possible. And then we just go and then we vote on which one they're gonna
Correct.
get, if I remember right.
Mhm.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Chairman,
Mr. Seat.
I move that the committee be authorized to put bids out for the purchase of the 2 vehicles, not to exceed $130,000.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Seat. Can I get a second?
I'll second it. Oh.
Okay, we'll take Linda. Linda, I was looking at Linda. She was waiting to talk, so Linda will get the second. Yes.
The motion was to approve it putting out for bids, but the resolution we have before us was to approve the spending of the money. Is that a difference that we need to be mindful of, or?
Can I answer to that?
Yes.
What I would still see as a process, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa as chair, is that we're approving the money to be used out of the short-term financing today. Any types of purchase would still have to go through a bidding process, and then by our board rules, we'd
Right.
still have to take through the county board for the.
Correct, but Mr. Seep's motion was to put it out for bids. It wasn't to approve spending the money.
Right, that would be a little bit different than what we're trying to do here today.
Okay, so do we need to amend the motion to reflect what we're trying to do?
So, Mr. Seep, you want to adjust your motion so that it reads more to the language in this?
Well, the body would have to withdraw my motion.
Okay,
Uh,
is that what you're thinking?
Withdraw my motion so that you can submit a new motion, otherwise amend this.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe that somehow we have to involve the ledger account new car outlay. And I believe what we should do is transfer money from short-term borrowing into new car outlay to commence this whole process.
So do we want to amend Mr. Seep's motion?
I thought he rescinded it, but
He hasn't yet. So we've got two choices here. He can either rescind it, or we can amend the motion to say that we're going to approve the transfer of the money to the new car outlay. And then, once it gets there, then they can go forth with their process.
Let's make it simple. I move that the body withdraw my motion. The motion belongs to the body since it's been forwarded, moved and seconded. And somebody has to second it. That's done, and then we go to the other.
I have to remove my second.
Okay. So we're going to do what Mr. Seep asked. So now we need a new motion to put this.
You got to
Correct.
pass the motion and withdraw.
Need to pass withdraw the motion. Withdraw the motion, whatever. Okay,
So do we do all those in favor? of
I would say
withdrawing?
yes. So all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Wait, before you do that, can I ask a question? So when we've done the borrowed money in the past, I believe it's just come directly out of the borrowed. It never got transferred to the new car outlay and then got spent. So this is different than how we've done it I believe, Clay, is that correct?
That is correct. So last year, in a meeting similar to this one, you guys approved me to spend up to, I think it was like $234,000 to complete the project. And that was kind of what I was looking for this year. The money stayed in what was Fund 75 last year. And then we just submitted the invoices as they came. We've already gotten squad bids this year. Bids were selected by LEJC already. I have not got pricing on equipment yet, still working on that, but looking to, I'm kind of planning for similar numbers to what we saw last year, maybe a little higher than what we saw last year for equipment.
So I believe what we need to do is pass a motion that would state that we're allowing them to spend up to 130,000 from the borrowed funds for squad and equipment. So I would make that motion. I hope Josh is following all this. Sorry.
No, second bill.
Okay, so Melissa has a motion, Marty seconded it. Any discussion?
Well, we ought to let them bid though for those cars.
They've
We
already,
have already put out bids.
For this round of cars? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what they
All
say.
right. All right. Fine.
So if the bids are complete, then it's just a matter of giving them the opportunity to spend this money. That's what we're doing today.
Correct.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Number 8, email archive update renewal and replacement.
Mr. Chair, looking today for approval of purchase of the Barracuda Messenger Archiver update renewal and instant replacement for 1 year at a total cost of $2,969.40. The background on this item, the Barracuda Email Archiver is the device that the Richland County uses to archive our email and to comply with open records laws. This device requires annual subscriptions so that it is kept current. This is a budgeted and anticipated yearly expense in the MIS budget. I would defer to MIS staff on any questions regarding this software. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions, or do we need Jason or Barb or anyone to speak?
And make a motion to approve.
Motion by Melissa,
I'll second.
second by Dave. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Number 9.
Mr. Chair, looking today for the approval of the purchase of a JAMF Pro subscription and jumpstart training at the cost of $3,318 from Shy, which is a company name. The JAMF Pro is a comprehensive management system for Apple, Mac OS, iOS devices. With JAMF, MIS can proactively manage the entire life cycle of Apple devices. This includes deploying and maintaining software, responding to security threats, distributing settings, and analyzing inventory data. Due to increased workload and demands of MIS staff, we're looking for ways to streamline processes that will make a big difference. And we have quotes and follow-on documentation that you can find on the website underneath items 9A and 9C from JAMF. And I would defer to MIS staff on additional questions.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Where would this money be coming from? What account? It says an adopted budget, so is it in MIS as a budget?
That is my understanding.
And they have the funds for this?
They do.
All right. Any other questions on this? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Also move.
Linda with the motion,
I'll second.
Marty with a second. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Anybody against? Okay, motion passes. Number 10.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to approve revisions to the 2022 budget development process and timeline. Hopefully as presented, background on this item is by the Richland County Committee Structure Document. Finance Personnel Committee is tasked with annually preparing a budget for the county for submission of the county board and its approval at the annual meeting. As the process continues to develop and with shifts in administrative focus, we have continued changes. The main change I'm looking here for today is to offset our union negotiations 1 month to the right and trying to line up everybody's schedule, getting our attorney on availability. John didn't have availability for us to begin as early as the 16th or the 6th today. So recommend then we begin with the union on beginning on May 4th. So that is the change to the document. You'll see it below. And I think that is the only change that I had on here for you today, Mr. Chair.
All right, anyone have any concerns or questions about this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Melissa with the motion,
I'll second.
Dave with a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, number 12. Approval to open an additional banking account to receive CDGB funds.
Mr. Chair, we're looking today for action by the committee to approve opening of 2 additional non-interest bearing accounts to be opened at the Richland County Bank to facilitate the receipt of CDBG closed grant funds projects. The background to this is in order to maintain compliance with community development block grant closed projects, Richland County needs to open up 2 non-interest bearing accounts to receive the funds released by the state. One account will be open for the Lone Rock project and one will be open for the Richland Center Auditorium project. Further details on this is the money will come to us from the Department of Administration upon request through Beerbecker, our consultant. Angela, who works at the Department of Administration, then will release the funds into one of these corresponding accounts. We'll then have less than 3 days, I think, to then have the money transferred into our general checking account, in which we'll be making the payments then to who's doing this, the work for us. So this, to the best of my knowledge, then becomes 2 accounts that help us with tracking for grant compliance. So the state will have a third party to track and ensure that we've received the funds and that we, within 3 days, that we're moving those funds. Mr. Chair.
All right, anyone have any questions?
Have to have a motion first.
Mr. Seif, are you giving us a motion?
I move to approve and discussion after the motion is approved or seconded.
I'll second.
Miss-
Motion.
Mr. Brewer seconds. Okay, discussion.
Yes, question. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Langrick, is this an escrow account?
No, these are non-interest bearing, is it a checking or savings accounts we have them set up as, Julie?
Checking account.
Non-interest bearing checking account. The money the Supervisor Seep will come into this account, and then within 3 days, we're obligated to have the money transferred out of the account.
Okay, thank you very much.
So then we just close the account after that's completed? That's the purpose of it?
When the projects are complete, then yes, we anticipate closing them down.
Good. Any other questions?
This truly is a bookkeeping entry type thing. So.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Did we skip 11?
We might have.
We did.
We did strategically, as 11 is a very busy one. In fact,
So we could do Julie's stuff.
yeah, I was just going to suggest that, Mr. Chair, if you wanted to do Julie's reports prior to getting into 11.
That's what I was kind of thinking. I did it inadvertently, though. I just jumped over that because I didn't want to look at that right now, I guess. So, Julie, would you like to go through your reports for us, please?
Unfortunately, it looks like our sales tax went down for the March balance. But as you can see, it looks like it's kind of a trend in March and April to have lower amounts. So I guess I was just kind of surprised we've kept it over 100,000 all this time. So. And then as far as interest on investments, I guess we know what that's all about. And I don't think it's going to get any higher. It's still going down, unfortunately.
It's like not even. Might as well be zero.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's just about, yeah, it is.
Like they're just toying.
Right.
As far as the cash balance history, this went down mainly because on March 1st, we had to pay our loan payment of a little over $3 million. So that's why that went down. And I guess we have the delinquent tax history, which I feel is right in line from last year. It is up a little bit in delinquency, but we won't know the true story until after the July collections to see where we're at that time.
But it doesn't appear to be any different than normal right now.
It doesn't seem to be, no.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? Anybody got any questions? All right, then we'll go back to number 11.
Okay, Mr. Chair, looking for a motion today, possibly looking for possible actions regarding additional information needed for administration to help the committee fully assess the requested projects and prioritize projects for the 2022 budget year and beyond. The background on this item is, as per the committee action to approve the capital projects planning process as presented in the March 25th committee meeting, it is intended that the committee review the capital projects tracker and submitted project summaries. The committee will be encouraged to post questions regarding the projects and request additional information needed to help them assess the projects and take future action on determining the priority and funding of projects in 2022 and beyond. Questions that may help guide the committee in setting context to the plan may include, does Richland County maintain a 2021 level of short-term financing, which is seen as paying for many of these projects? And then what operations, budgeted services impacts in the committee is the committee willing to consider? As a result of this effort, the 2022 project capital improvements and capital projects requests received from departments currently sits, and this number has adjusted again, is now over the amount here of over $2.5 million. If the county engages in short-term loan financing again, we may have an estimated about $1 million $50,000 of available funds for 2022 without further increasing our millage rate. And that depends on what we get back for a net new construction across our property tax base. So looking at right now, we're at approximately 1.4, potentially 1.5 unfunded requests. So the tracker, if you move on to document number 11A, will need to be revised based on information received throughout the yesterday, today, and in the end of last week. Some of the adjustments that we'll get to you on that tracker in the near future here, you'll see register of probate. We intend to scratch, and we'll put that underneath courthouse operating budgets. The MIS section with the different items here have changed, and you'll see that reflected in the summary sheets as we go through them here today. The HVAC system for community service building is proposed to increase from 100,000 to 150,000. And then for the courthouse, underneath the courthouse project, the third one there for the repurposing emergency management ambulance space, anticipate scratching that for 2023 based on process and projects of getting the ambulance garage going. Underneath the sheriff's department, you'll also see the addition of a jail camera. And then I still need items yet from UW campus. I'll plan on reaching out to Assistant Provost Michael Compton here in the near future to try to get those in place for the 16th. So that being said, with the tracker, if you can move on then to item 11B1 and through the 11B series, you'll see the different projects proposed by MIS. The first one being the access points in the courthouse. This is adding additional Wi-Fi access spots and access points. It comes at a cost of $21,000. And I'm not sure if you want me to read through all the risks. I'll maybe just breeze through and kind of highlight what the items are, and then you'll have a better part of a week as a committee to kind of go through these, reaching out to myself or departments directly with questions that you might have, and we can bring all that information back at the next meeting to actually try to sift through and decide what we want to do for this coming year, or push to the next year's, or do without, etc. Buffalo backup system is another item by MIS. It does backups on all of our data the county creates. Obviously, it helps with risk management of a loss of data, especially with our statute of limitations reaching back about 7 years. Our computer replacement, currently most of our computer replacement is kind of visualized as flowing through MIS for many of the departments. So this allows to have additional replacements for computers rotating out as needed. Our next one under 11B5, capital projects for the boardroom. This is putting in our teleconferencing equipment into the courtroom and have it set up in kind of a permanent capacity. It would certainly help us with our staffing level. As you can see here today, it takes us 2 MIS staff, probably a total of 4 hours, would you say, Jason, for a setup, a meeting, and then a tear down. If we had a meeting, or if we get back to a COVID safe environment where we can put people in that building and have things permanently type configured, we'd be able to still be able to reach out via WebEx and have a little bit less staffing requirements to help support that. Office space, or Office 365 is licensing. It'll be ongoing cost. It should be built into our departmental budgets. So this might be an item that we're not looking to do for our capital improvements out of a borrowing capacity, but incorporated into our operation levy. The Health and Human Services HVAC system, again, they're looking to replace, right now they have an existing 18 heating and cooling units, and they're looking to replace those with 3 or 4 large, more efficient units. And stop me if there's things that if you'd like to talk about, Mr. Chair, or members of the committee.
I would just say, anybody just speak up if there's something that hits you that you want to talk about.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question if it doesn't interrupt your rhythm.
No, go right ahead.
Mr. Langrick, you mentioned an upgrade by MIS. Did you say in the boardroom or in the courtroom?
Supervisor Seif, that would be for the county boardroom. And the idea is that we try to migrate our in-person meetings, that especially the ones that we want to have broadcasted over a WebEx or a Zoom format, to have them all in that room so that we can leave things permanently configured and we don't have to continually do tear downs and setups for those meetings. Did that answer your question, Supervisor Seif?
Yes, I thought you were talking about expanding our capacity for large meetings in the new remodeled courtroom, but that's not the case.
Not the case.
Thank you.
And I guess I have a question. So there's money that comes from the COVID, whatever, from the government, I guess from the federal government. Does some of this stuff going to fall into that, Clint, to where it can be taken out of this capital budget and be used, that money used for that, from that, I guess, or take that money and, like when you talk about a boardroom like this and trying to make it so you can work in it under pandemic conditions, let's say, would that fall under that?
Potentially. At this point, I don't know, Mr. Chair. It's going to depend on when the Treasury guidance is officially reached from the Federal Treasury Department.
Understood.
We're trying to still guess at what they're going to put in place based on just the very general language that was put forth in the bill.
Understood. It was just a question, just because we are pretty fortunate that is there to help in a lot of this stuff, so.
Well, no, it's a darn good question, and
Yeah.
on the heels of the COVID relief will be the infrastructure federal initiative. So I'm real leery of going ahead with a lot of money in capital project improvements before we know the complete story. And I know that's going to be difficult, but I've already been approached by constituents who say, hey, we're getting a lot of money. We should, tax bill ought to go down next year. So,
Do we know when we'll be getting more guidance from Treasury?
I don't have a date on when everybody is very anxious to get it.
Of course, right?
Yesterday is kind of the approach.
We are potentially getting 3-point-something million,
3.3, right?
3.3,
Yep.
but it will come with, you have to meet criteria in order to get all of that money.
And that's what we're waiting for, is the
Right.
criterias. Our understanding, though, is that it's not going to come to us like the CARES Act, in which we submitted for reimbursements, we paid, and that it's in fact going to come to us in 2 allotments, one yet this year and then one following 12 months thereafter, is how we understand it to be coming to us.
Okay, thank you.
but it will be audited.
Right, to make sure we spend it on the
That's
appropriate
good.
categories, which, that's appropriate.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. C.
also keeping in mind that there is progress toward an additional $2 billion infrastructure bill, or $2 trillion infrastructure bill that's being proposed to the Congress at present.
Correct.
So who knows what's going to happen?
And to further complicate, Mr. Chair, currently our Highway Commissioner Roger Petrick is in fact down in Madison with the Finance Committee there, giving testimony on a potential bill that would require the governor to allocate some of the state America's Recovery Plan money towards local county bridges and road infrastructure. So there's lots of different monies and bits and pieces moving. I guess I don't necessarily see us a week and a half from now making a final decision on these are going to be our capital improvement plans. But at the same time, trying to, hopefully we have a better understanding of how these monies are going to be used, and we can start at least a prioritization kind of discussion so that you folks kind of know where each other stand when you're approaching your actions and your recommendations.
And, that's going to create, of course, it's good to have a problem that you're getting some money to use, but what it ends up being is you're gonna use it on something to use it that you don't necessarily were thinking about using it on, if that makes any sense. So instead of doing something like changing roof on something, we're gonna do this, and it isn't gonna make sense to people. Why didn't you fix the roof? You know what I mean?
There's going to be many discussions like that, Mr. Chair, that I see, as well as even in the capital project realm of, are we making investments that are going to cause bigger problems for us at the end of that life cycle? Like if we're going to do it all in computers, and then 5 years from now we have a big hole of $3 million worth of computers that we had filled and tied up for that type of so some of the mindset that I think we have to have is that is a one-time plug, not knowing when the next big federal kind of plug is going to be pushed into us, and appropriating it towards a one-time plug kind of a mindset versus continual needs that we're going to have for decades to come.
Agreed. All right. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll let Clint go forward here.
Yeah, I think we left off on 11 D 11C. So underneath 11D1, you'll see the request for another chiller system, or a HVAC. This one's just a chiller for the courthouse, and this is for the sheriff's side. Currently, we run on a system that has 10 radiators and 5 control panels. Looking to switch that to a more efficient chiller a unit. Current unit there has been in place since approximately 1988 to 1989. Heat exchangers, through the short-term borrowing, we displaced approximately $20,000 from our annual maintenance budget from the courthouse system, with the mindset that we're going to be using short-term recurring borrowing to replace 3 heat exchangers. Item number 11E1, this is for the squads. There's a request for 4 squads through short-term borrowing, and the total of $260,000. And this comes under the mindset again of that we displaced our capital outlays initially with Fund 75 and the $2.9 million loan, and then now last year we kind of picked that up underneath Fund 92, or our short-term borrowing. We only replaced 2 versus the request of 3 to free up funds to do the radio tower assessment, which we are now in strides on. So to try to make up, and going from missing out on a 1 squad this year would be to do 4 next year. The next item here is the jail camera system, I believe, and this would be for monitoring the jails, to have a jail camera system put in place and installed. And this is again meeting compliance. I believe we had a citation from our last inspection that we should have cameras in place, which came up, of course, when we had the unfortunate deaths that happened in the jailhouse. 11E3 is a big dollar item. That is your radio tower dispatch console replacement. Estimated, again, and this is conservative, at about $3 million. We don't know yet. It's going to depend on what comes back through the consultation on what are our needs and our desires of how much of our terrain we want to have without dead spaces, how much equipment that we're going to be able to pick up on, and how much consideration as well as how it's going to interface with the pieces that we have with all of our emergency response folks, our fire units, etc. This item obviously isn't going to fit in our short-term loan capacity, at least unless we were to raise it another several million, of which I don't feel is probably there's going to be appetite for. So this is going to be an item that is either a separate bonding item, or it's going to be something potentially, and maybe through an American Recovery Plan funds, if it were to extend to capture a project like that. 11F is from the Simon Center, and this is improvements to the locker room to the tune of a total of $25,000, of which we would share $12,500 with the city. And that is for replacements on putting in drains and slopes in the locker room to help with water cleanup and sanitation. Project 11G is improvements at the Tri-County Airport. It is for raising a runway, raising a taxiway, and then putting in a drainage ditch from the airport to the Bear Creek. Most of this project on a, our share projected right now is around 120,000. That depends on how ordinance language shakes out with our continued relationship forward with Sauk County. And this would also account for the project itself would be 90% funded by the FFA or the FAA, 5% by local Department of Transportation, avionics, and then 5% of a local share, which included us, Sauk County, and then potential local partners that may be able to help up on that local share. Item number 11I.
Mr. Langrick, the total of that project is in the millions, the overall total.
That's correct. Supervisor Brewer, it's a $9.5 million project in total. And part of it would include impacts to this year's budget as well as next year's budget. We're hoping that potentially our partners, private partners that are considering helping on this project would be able to pick up expenses on land acquisition yet this year. So the counties don't have to amend their budgets, and then we're picking up expenses, the heavier expenses going forward into the next year. But obviously, our local partners are going to want a commitment from the counties that they're on board with this before they're putting their money down. 11I is from the Highway Department, and that is the salt shed item, an item that we did discuss here a couple meetings ago, and looking for about $300,000 for that. And again, the concerns with risks on not having it kind of went towards leaching, ground contamination. And item number 12. Oh, no. And I think that is the last one I have for you today, Mr. Chair. Again, the tracker sheet of what you would view on here as 11A will have adjustments on that, and I will get that to you. There is one additional item that will be coming from MIS on there as well, and I will we'll get that out to you as well post haste. So, Mr. Chair, I would turn it over to yourself to see if there's any additional questions that you would have on these documents, additional information that you would need. I understand in the discussion that we're still going to be awaiting guidance from our for our Americans Recoveries Act, as well as other potential funding sources. But certainly looking forward to any additional requests on information that you folks might have to help in the decision process. Mr. Chair.
All right. Does anybody?
Administrator Langrick, I'd like to put you on the spot because I think you participated in the Wisconsin counties briefings on this matter. What are our chances? I think we're going to get some money. And how lenient are they going to be in the expenditure?
Again, unknown. The 3.3 is kind of already earmarked and guaranteed. It's how we're going to be able to spend it. Some of the categories that might be able to touch on some of the things that we're seeing here is broadband access. I know is one is defined by regulation. Others is towards health and human services. It's unknown at this point if there's going to be an ability for us to say we're going to put that towards health and human services type activities, and thereby kind of take our local levy funding back to reappropriate towards other uses. We're looking for information and guidance on that. So it's kind of unclear. There's the wish list, and then there might be what we can reasonably do with it. I do understand though that it's unlike the previous CARES Act where it all had to be expended by a no later date. This one is reaching out multiple years, so it's not a pressure on to find a use for it in the immediate needs.
Yeah, can I say something? Melissa and I were talking about broadband earlier, and she said Southwest Cap was working on,
Southwest Regional Planning.
Regional Planning was working on a map, because that's what I wanted of the county. I know once we asked Jason to work on something like that, right, Jason? A long time ago, right?
Long time ago, but it's somewhat separate from what the county should do.
Yeah. So I think we should be like you know,
I am going to talk to Marty after.
yeah, we should be more ahead on this so that we're prepared when that money comes through. I'd like to be in on it, yeah.
Yeah, but isn't Richland Grant, I mean, they're putting fiber optic everywhere in the county.
They are, yeah. I think
Our places here.
we're probably getting off topic, but
But,
I can bring it to the next meeting. I have a
Yeah.
lot of information on where we're at right now.
That would be great.
Well, and you know, like you were talking earlier, if there's an infrastructure bill that's gonna come through, you don't really want to tie a bunch of money, this money into that, into the broadband. If the next one, infrastructure, I would think that would be part of that broadband thing. So I don't know. It's gonna be difficult to pick and choose what to do and do it right. And you just hope we do the best with the best information we got, I guess, is all you can do.
I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head, Mr. Chair, is that we're going to be presented with opportunities. We might be taking those opportunities only to find out several months, several years later that, oh, there's another thing, you know, the same type of opportunity. And we'll be like, well, but we're going to have to move forward with the best information we have at the time of the decision and try to plug as many holes as we can and to try to posture ourselves for future success.
As Jimmy Cagney said, all we need right now is the information.
Exactly right. All right, do we need any action on this, or is this just getting it ready for the next meeting to go through and try to start dicing this up and seeing what we're gonna do, or?
That is the intention, Mr. Chair. If there was any motions that you wanted on different formats, different information, anything else that you folks want to have, I visualize the rubber hitting the road at our next meeting that we have capital improvements, capital projects hit. If there's specific departments that you would like to come in and to have talk to you folks on the items, I know that they've all been kind of thrown at you just today and you haven't had time to really to digest the items. But again, if questions come up through the time for the next meeting as well, you can reach out to myself if it's something that you would want shared with the entire group. If it's an individual question that you want to reach out directly to the department, that is acceptable as well.
I guess the only question I really have is, okay, so, and this is not an easy question. It's what it comes down to is, okay, what are we mandated to do as a county? And then what do we do as a county that's not mandated? And where does the money come from that we do these other projects, other programs, all this stuff? Because I guess my question is what changes are we going to make as a county to justify borrowing money every year to fix stuff? You know, and that's a tough question, and it's even tougher to answer, because everybody has a passion for whatever program it may be. And, you know, my thought, which probably won't be well received, but okay, this is what we're required to do, and this is how much money we have. And the next question is okay, if we want to engage in all these other programs, whatever they may be, do we want to take that to the people of the county and say, listen, this is what it costs to do all these programs that we do? And do you look at it like a referendum, like you do in a school district or anything else, and say, okay, if we want to engage in this, you know, we have our 10-year plan and all this stuff, and this is what we want to be. Is the county willing to, you know, are we willing to pay more to do these these programs, so that we're not constantly borrowing $1 million, $1 million, $1 million every year? Because pretty soon that $1 million is going to go to $2 million, and then it's going to go to $3 million. I mean, just because of what it costs to do this. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I actually called the Counties Association, I don't know, last year sometime, to ask them that, because I figured why don't they have a list of what's, but they don't. The response was, it's really complicated. And I said, well, because I mean, I could spend days and days and days going through all of statutes. I mean, you know, so it is incredibly complicated. But one thought I had is perhaps we could ask our department heads to give us a list of the programs that they manage that they know are they should know, right? I mean, that might be one place to start. We could survey our department heads to know.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Seat.
But Melissa's correct. The department heads, some of the department heads can give us a list of what are mandated expenditures and what are not mandated programs. It wasn't that complicated. About 4 or 5 years ago, we had a list put together of
Yes.
everything that was mandated
Yes.
and everything that was discretionary. And it was a very simple process.
Do we know where that list is?
That's a good question.
I don't know, but I know we did it. I remember.
The county clerk could probably find it.
So, yes, so if this has already been, and I'd heard when that this had been talked about before, but I didn't know how in depth or whatnot, but like I said, it would be really good to see what that is and then see the costs associated with it, just to see, okay, what is it really costing to do business as a county? And what can we do to help that, if at all, reduce that, whatever the case may be. So when you talk about information, I just like to have all that information to kind of go over it, so.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think the last budget process we went through pretty much laid that out for us.
Well, we didn't really talk about what was mandated, Marty, and what was,
Well,
No.
I guess it boiled down to big departments versus small departments maybe, but,
yeah, it did.
but a lot of those smalls were non-mandated things, so. I didn't have any trouble with it, but that's probably because I saw this secret list that was circulating 5 years ago. And it's not a secret. I shouldn't have said that.
Well, I think it's deceiving though, because we may need to look a little further than just asking the department heads. Because for example, like the sheriff's department, the sheriff is mandated by statute to have the jail, but deputies are not necessarily mandated, but do we not want deputies? Well, of course, we have to have deputies. So it's not just a matter of mandated versus not mandated. There are certainly non-mandated things that are of critical importance. And so, we have to look at all of that, not just.
And and the point I'm trying to make is that I'm not necessarily saying we get rid of everything that's not mandated. That's not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm saying is bringing it in front of the people of the county and say, listen, if we're going to have all this stuff, it takes money to have this stuff. And, everybody's real quick to say, well, you just waste your money. Well, no, it's not the case. It costs money to do all this stuff. It costs money to upkeep all this stuff. It costs money for everything we do. Every time we're here, especially this meeting, this is the one that spends all the money. So, we see what it costs to do business every month, and there are things you can't get rid of. We can't not buy software for our computer system so it doesn't just quit working one day. Them are things that 30 years ago, 40 years ago weren't even an issue, that are something that's drastically needed today. So I guess it's more about finding out what we do, what it costs, and then seeing what we can. I think last year we had a good idea what was going on, but I think we can get better every year and understand what we can do and how we can merge, or how we can, think outside of the box that we're in today to try to keep everything we got and still make it work and try not to raise people's taxes.
That's easy.
It's a great idea.
Mr. Chair, so one thing, the strategic plan, really the intent of a strategic plan is to help us identify where our priorities are. And so I really hope that when our strategic plan is done, we can look at that document and say, okay, these are the things that we said were important. So these are the things that should get funded, and then what's left funds the rest.
I would agree completely.
So,
Mr. Chairman, just a quick thing. This calls for a lot more conversation than we're having right now that might be getting close to being off the agenda. However, we are an elected body representing the people, and it's our job to collect the information and the data so that we can make intelligent decisions in behalf of the taxpayers, in behalf of the citizens. If we send a referendum out for everything that we decide we think we can't decide on ourselves, we're not doing our job as elected representatives. And if we can't put together a strategic plan, we have the authority and the responsibility to manage the county in behalf of the citizens. If you want to turn it over to 8,000 citizens and ask them to collect the information, you're going to have chaos. That's why we have representative government. We have to do our job, and then we don't have to worry about the citizens asking the citizens whether we should do something or not. And if we don't like it, then we shouldn't be elected.
I understood completely, Mr. Seep, and I don't think that's not necessarily the way I was going. What I was
Oh, I
saying
don't
is,
think
is,
so either. I
you
think
know,
you're a little penurious.
what's that?
You might be a little penurious.
Oh. So, but at the end of the day, we do represent them, and if they don't agree with what we're doing, of course, they're gonna get rid of us anyways, but
Good.
the good thing about it is we generate the information, but when we bring it back and we look at it and say, okay, this is what it is, that's, you gotta try to tell everybody in the county what you're gonna do, because if you just go and say, well, we're cutting this, you know how that works out too.
Well,
So,
sure, that's good communication. We have a responsibility to do that.
I agree. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get at more, so that we know what we're talking about, so when they ask us, we can answer it. Okay, anything else on this? Do we need any motions to go forward?
I don't think so, unless there's any motions
I
that you
don't.
folks want to make. We'll plan on bringing back as much information as we can to the next capital improvement, capital projects meeting. In the meantime, if questions come up that you think are kind of pertinent to everybody should be on the know on, if you want to reach out to myself, to department heads directly and try to channel that information back to this body, that would be most helpful.
I just got one thing. I think this is a great process. I think last year's was a great start to it. I think every year we're getting better at it with more information and more planning going into it and starting earlier every year. So we have time to make these. It's going to take a lot of meetings to get to the end of the day. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the same time, when we're starting this early, obviously it puts us in a situation where estimates and such might, now we're 6 months out or 8 months out, but at least we can start capturing big tens of thousands, hundreds of $1,000 markings for it. But thank you, and we hope to continue improving the process. It's always going to be a working process. Hopefully, we're always making improvements on it.
Agreed. All right. So if nothing on this, then what do we need to set the next meeting?
Are we still meeting April 15th?
That's the question right now.
Yeah.
I've got us down for.
And I guess the next question I have is, are we just going to go bi-monthly with this meeting until we get through
I think that was. the
whatever
plan.
we need to do? So can we just have some standard meeting times,
I thought we were gonna change it to Friday from Thursday. That's why I'm confused.
I've got the dates on the, if you open up item number 10 again, our budgeting process, I've got in there the anticipated dates for each meeting. If you go to page 2 on item number 10, I believe
I closed it up.
so we're looking at this month was April 6th, and then we were looking at the third Friday, April 16th. And then we'll have May 4th, May 21st.
Okay, so now it's the 16th.
Oh, 16.
If that works for you folks.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
Yes, I think we were shooting at the first Tuesday and the third Friday, I believe, is our goal.
Does that keep us separated enough in between meetings to where we're not?
April is kind of a closer one because we're hitting the 6th and the 16th. In May, then we'll be at the 4th and the 21st. June is the 1st and the 18th. July is another 6th and 16th. August is 3rd and 20th. September is 7th and 17th. And then October is 5th and 15th.
Good.
By the time we get to September, we may have to set more meetings anyway as we're getting through the
Right.
final budget process.
Hopefully we're done by then.
That'd be nice,
You know,
but yeah, wishful thinking.
Well, we're already doing more meetings than we did in the past, so. All right, so,
So,
Fridays are different for MIS staff.
What?
Can we shoot for the,
Are we gonna be here? But when can we start meeting in the, or you think it's too soon to meet in the court?
Yeah, when can we meet in the court or up in the boardroom?
Boardroom?
I can talk with our public health nurse on the safety aspects of it. Again, it would be up to, part of that is you folks.
I don't see. Everybody been vaccinated?
Yeah.
I have. You-
Everybody
you
that's gonna
two
get
haven't?
vaccinated, been vaccinated?
Are you lined up? What?
I mean, it depends on how much public shows up.
That's the other,
That's the concern, because if you have
Getting
public
as well.
showing up who's not vaccinated and
And
Then-
cramping a bit along the
and
wall.
along the walls, it gets crowded pretty fast in that room.
Mr. Chair.
Right.
Yes.
Hi, this is Ingrid Glassburner. I just want to state, we need to be really careful about not violating people's HIPAA.
Oh, and asking.
Yeah.
I agree. Understood.
I think we were supposed to tell Clint, right?
Privately.
Privately, yeah.
Privately, I'm sure.
correct, Anna?
Well, I mean, we're allowed to say our own vaccination status if
Exactly.
we want to.
Yeah,
We just can't ask other.
right. I didn't ask you, did I?
Coming back around to adjournment, Mr. Chair, then we'd be, I mean, right now, we are scheduled for the 16th. If that doesn't work, if we need to adjust fire on that, we can. In moving forward too, we can switch the dates with prior notice to get out to some of the folks like our union, just to make sure we're jiving on those, so.
So is the 16th gonna be a problem for you guys?
I don't work on Fridays, so it would be very limited staff. I'm not sure what my schedule is, so. If it's in the county boardroom, it's a little bit different for us. But we have to set everything up here. It's gonna be very difficult.
So do we want to move it to the Thursday?
Why did we not do Thursdays? There was a problem.
Thursday, I have a major conflict as it gets on, yeah.
What about the Tuesday?
Well, Clint has the schedule for everybody else's meetings, and he probably has this arranged so there aren't any conflicts.
Well, let me pull it up right now. We can war game through this while we got the powers to be here. 1 second here.
Jason, you need 2 people to set up?
It takes us about
Yeah,
a half a
Barb's
day
here.
worth of our time that we're not available to the other 19 departments.
Okay, and I've got the schedule here, so let me do a share now, and I'll pull it up on the screen here. I'll attempt to anyways. Share content. Oh, yeah, let me make that a little bigger, huh?
I've got glasses on, but
I still can't see it.
No, why did that? Let's stop sharing.
So the third Tuesday, what's, oops,
Let me,
it's okay, you can just tell us.
The other
share.
complication is we need to get in both finance meetings before the board meeting, I would assume.
yeah, and that's when the county board meeting meets.
I think we had anticipated, we still have this one on the first Tuesday, which things that need to go to the county board, I would say that we're trying to focus on that. The second one of the month was more anticipated on trying to do the more long-term kind of financial planning aspect ones, not always, but to have more of those bits and pieces. It's currently set for the third Friday. If it needs to move, there might be other opportunities.
Can I say something? I know that you don't like meeting in the other room, but maybe the first one, which has more public things that people would come to, and the second one on Fridays, we could meet in the county boardroom. Because that, as you said, is a different agenda type. There would probably less people wanting to come.
But we had the public here today bidding on properties.
Mr. Chair,
Monday.
Yes, Mr. Seat.
this thing is going to be kind of fluid with it. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID, whether things are going to ease up in terms of space to move. Why don't we go with Clint's schedule, and at the end of each meeting, we can set the time, place, and date for the next meeting if it needs to deviate from Clint's schedule.
I'm not against it either, anyway.
Pardon?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Clint has made the schedule. The problem is that we got to get support from MIS, and that where it could be a problem.
I guess let's start today at setting, if we could start, set it at Friday, the 16th at 1 PM, location to be determined. We can see about county boardroom, what that would look like. Part of it might be encouraging folks to meet outside public and such, to meet via WebEx versus coming in. Likewise, I can talk with my department head and staff to make sure that they're also trying to WebEx in.
Because the next meeting, if we have questions about these capital improvements, we would be wanting department heads to be available, but they could be on WebEx.
Yes.
We could ask them to be on WebEx and then we would only be in the room.
Yeah.
That's more efficient.
Yes.
I would agree. That's a great idea.
Okay.
That
Okay,
way
if we can
They can do their work.
if we can adjourn to a date and time, then we'll
Right.
fill in the where and let you folks know.
All right, so need a motion to adjourn to April 16th, 1 PM?
So
Mr.
moved.
Chair, before you adjourn.
Yes.
Is it inappropriate, Mr. Langrecht, to ask for an agenda item for the next meeting, or shall we call you?
I failed to have it posted on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
You can certainly give me a call or through your chair and vice chair, and we can have it added on.
All right, thank you.
And before we adjourn, Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment that our Highway Commissioner, Roger Petrick, is testifying today in Madison. And I think that's a real feather in the cap of the county to have our employee, our Commissioner of Highways there in Madison, giving the story of counties. So he's an expert on bridges, and I think they're talking about bridges. Just a comment.
Thank you. Glad to hear Roger got to go to Madison today. I'm sure he enjoys that. All right, anything else? If not,
Make a
yes,
motion
Dave.
To adjourn until Friday, April 16th at 1 PM.
Sounds great.
Second.
Place to be determined. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.